Mover Nation, the verdict is in for Chad Daybell, and yeah, it's a real thing. It's happening. And text messages are flying in. Look at this. Mover Nation, how are you, everyone? Total impromptu live stream. So there's about 5 billion channels that are going to be streaming this. So share screen with East Idaho News, which is streaming this. Uh, let's see how that works. There's always people over there. Hey, maybe there'll be people over here too. This whole thing has been just oh, nope. Let's see here. Nope. Don't want that either. There we go. Hi, everybody. Hi, dog mom. I figured people do. They were messaging me. And there's going to be a verdict read at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. So, or sorry, 2 p.m. Mountain Time, which is 1 p.m. Pacific, which is in like 1 minute. So, since we're watching the East Idaho news, oh, just kidding. Making sure that's playing. There we are. We'll see what happens. Mover Nation, thank you so much for joining. I had no plan on doing this. I'm working on Karen Reed stuff. I had some more interesting interviews on the Karen Reed case today. I can't wait. I'm working on that content. The more I find out about this case is insane to me. The Daybell thing is just way more. But thank you so much, Muggs. I appreciate that. Watching live from Canada, Lauren Zakai. Thank you. Lorna, thank you everybody for joining. Yeah, I'd say everybody. I mean, it's like people have like thousands of and I literally have a friend coming here and to borrow a tuxedo jacket for a wedding this weekend. So there you have it. Welcome, Court McNeil. Yes. We are gonna have a lot going on here. Oh, look, Nightbot has participated, adding people to the Patreon. Thank you, Nightbot. Let's see. Gotta add all our wonderful little keywords here. So if you guys, so Chad Daybell, so obviously Lori Vallow Daybell has been convicted already. She's awaiting her own fate in a Arizona courtroom next. She was already convicted here in Idaho. I have not watched much of this trial. I watched the documentaries and and obviously Lori Vallow's older son is still around and he's just been processing everything and going through his own types of hardships too. Because when you have people murdered in your family, it's not a fun thing, that's for sure. However, let's see what happens here. Doesn't excuse anyone's behavior, but yeah. So, anyways, glad to see everyone. Of course, everyone's like I said, people flying in here with text messages. I should text my All right, let's see here. Can you guys hear this, by the way? Court, give me a thumbs up if you can. Yes, not read yet. But I was just working, as I said, I was working on some great Karen Reed content. I interviewed a lawyer this morning. Hey, what's happening? Why can't I hear this?
Thank you. Please be seated.
There. All right, I'm gonna make myself small, guys. This guy's a total scum. Oh, thank you so much, Linda Smith. Awesome. Oh, the Visions of Glory connection. Yeah.
All right, I apologize. It'll take me a moment here to get logged on, and then we'll get started.
Little Marisol is next to me in her cage. Some water, sweetheart. Made a mess. Made a mess for her. Marisol, there are a lot of other channels. There are a lot of other channels that are covering the Daybell case and the verdict, the live verdict, but none of them have a Chihuahua as cute as this one. Nobody else has a puppy that is this adorable that watches the verdict. Oh, Marisol. So I hope this guy goes up the river for a bajillion years.
Okay, we're on the record on case CR 22-21-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell. The court's been advised that the jury has reached a verdict. The court will note the parties are present. The state's present with Mr. Wood, Ms. Blake, Mr. Wixom, and Ms. Beatty. Mr. Pryor's here representing the defendant, Mr. Daybell. And the court at this time is going to instruct the jurors to please be brought into the courtroom. That will include our alternate jurors as well to be seated. And then I will have the marshal get the verdict form from the jury once they return to the courtroom. So if they can come in at this time, we'll have them brought in.
Yes, it is. I agree with that. Court McNeil. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Heather Rose. Welcome, Loriana Lemuse, DK, Linda Smith, Empathy Lady, Dog Mom, DK, Adelaide Snell, Lorna, Muggs, Deborah, Susie K, 70.
Please all present accounted for, Your Honor.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Mary Alice Haas, welcome.
All right, the court's going to next just make a reference that there is a courtroom conduct order in effect in this proceeding to remain in effect. So I appreciate everyone complying with that order, as most of you have done throughout the proceedings in this case. At this time, then, the first matter I'd like to take up is to do a roll call of the jury for the record. So, Madam Clerk, if you could please conduct a roll call of our jury to make sure they're all present and properly seated at this time.
Can you imagine what this
Juror
family
number
has
one,
been
red
through?
card number 27.
It's
Juror
really
number 2, red card number 219. Juror number 4, red card number 631. Juror number 5, red card number 653. Juror number 7, red card number 752. Juror number 8, red card 1680. Juror number 9, red card number 823. Juror number 10, red card 1358.
Present.
Juror number 11, red card 1365. Juror number 12, red card 716. Juror number 14, red card 997. And juror number 15, red card 1078.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for conducting the roll call. All right, at this time, I'm next going to inquire from the jury foreperson. Has the jury reached a verdict? All right, thank you. Mr. Bailiff, if you would please retrieve the verdict from the jury foreperson.
Hi, Terry Tate McFarland.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's a tough position kids are in when they have to testify against a parent who's who's on trial for murder. It's a very, for their own mother, it's a weird cognitive dissonance. But here we go.
All right, the court has reviewed the verdict form. I'll note that all counts have been properly marked, as well as the verdict form's been properly dated and signed by the foreperson. The next step then is Mr. Daybell, if you and counsel would please rise. I'm going to have the clerk read the verdict.
This is wild.
In the District Court of the 7th Judicial District of the State of Idaho and in for the County of Fremont. State of Idaho plaintiff versus Chad Guy Daybell defendant, case number CR 22211623. Verdict. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn to try the above entitled action for our verdict, unanimously answer the questions submitted to us as follows. Question number 1. In regards to count 1 of the amended indictment, is Chad Guy Daybell not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan and grand theft by deception? Guilty. Question number 2. In regards to count 2 of the amended indictment, is Chad Guy Daybell not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan? Guilty. Question number 3. In regards to count 3 of the amended indictment, is Chad Guy Daybell not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow and grand theft by deception? Guilty. Question number 4. In regards to count 4 of the amended indictment, is Chad Guy Daybell not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow? Guilty. Question number 5. In regards to count 5 of the amended indictment, is Chad Guy Daybell not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell? Guilty. Question number 6. In regards to count 6 of the amended indictment, is Chad Guy Daybell not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell? Guilty. Question number 7. In regards to count 7 of the amended indictment, is Chad Guy Daybell not guilty or guilty of insurance fraud? Guilty. Question number 8. In regards to count 8 of the amended indictment, in regards to count 9 of the amended indictment, is Chad Guy Daybell not guilty or guilty of insurance fraud? Guilty. Dated this 30th day of May, 2024, and signed by the presiding juror.
Wow.
All right, Madam Clerk, thank you for reading the verdict. At this time, I'm just going to collectively ask the jurors, all of you, is this in fact your unanimous verdict on each of those counts?
There you
Very
go.
well. At this time, I'm going to inquire if the parties wish to have the jury pulled. Does the state wish to have the jury pulled?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Does the defense, Mr. Pryor, wish to have the jury pulled?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Yeah, of course
Very well,
not.
then. I'm going to direct the clerk to record the verdict. At this time, then, this does conclude the guilt phase of this trial. Because the defendant has been convicted on counts of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree
Wow.
murder, the state has filed a notice of intent to seek the death penalty, and so a second phase of this trial, called the sentencing phase, will be taking place next. We're going to take a recess at this time for approximately an hour. We will come back on the record and begin with the start of that sentencing phase of the trial. I would like to remind everyone that this courtroom conduct order is still in application throughout these proceedings. Thank you all for complying with that. We are going to take that recess at this time. Mr. Daybell is to remain in custody at this time for the commencement of the sentencing phase.
There you
And
go.
with that, thank you all, and we will be in recess.
So, Chad Daybell, guilty on what appears to be all the counts in the amended indictment or the original indictment. This is interesting because somebody brought up the testimony of his older children, who are the children of Tammy Daybell. And people talk about the sort of cognitive dissonance between a father, right, who is on trial for the murder of your mother and then testifying against, and sort of the emotions that go through this, right? It's a very, very real thing. And yes, I agree. Justice, absolutely. Justice. When the justice system works, I say this a lot, when the justice system works in this country, it works, you know, and it's the best in the world, no matter what anyone thinks. We do have the best justice system here in the United States, but I'll tell you, it is, it's really hard because it's very bittersweet, because those kids go through this and this thing because now they've lost both parents. It's a really difficult thing to go through. It's a traumatic thing to go through when you have a parent on trial for the murder of another one. It's wild. It's just crazy. And Garth Daybell, who is her son, their son. I mean, it's just, it's a lot. It's a lot. I'm pulling up their names. I apologize. He's 55 years old and will either be eviscerated from this earth, or he will be, yeah. But, you know, for JJ and Tylee Ryan, who are obviously completely I mean, all three of them are innocent. Tammy, JJ, Tylee Ryan are innocents in this very bizarre crime. And I think that's probably the hardest thing to write up, to sort of wrap your head around, not write, but wrap your head around, is what this cognitive dissonance is, again, you know, with his adult children. And Dog Mom, you say, Collier, I brought that up about the adult children because you know about how Paige was devoted because of your testimony. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much. And R.I.P. Paige Matthews, who was a member of this channel and who tragically lost her life last year. Yeah, it's sort of this cognitive dissonance you go through, right? And because you don't want to lose that parent, because that's the only connection. But I feel a lot like when I look at Chad Daybell's demeanor, and for those of you, you know, that are here on the channel and you don't know my story, I usually play my little intro into this, into the show. If you're wondering who I am, I'm going to let you know that right now as we wait to hear from the outside of the courtroom. This is me.
Testimony continued today in the most notorious criminal trial in Richland. Dr. John Boyle is accused of killing his wife, Maureen.
The 12-year-old son finally took the stand.
The boy confidently told the jury it was his decision to testify against his father.
I heard a scream. I heard a thud. It was about this
We,
loud.
the jury, find the defendant guilty.
I decided at an early age that our trauma should not be what defines us. It's what we choose to do with it that does. I'm here to share my unique perspective on true crime, mental health, society, and popular culture, albeit with a slight sense of humor. I'm Collier Landry, and welcome to my show.
So there you go. If you don't know who I am, now you do. I'm Collier Landry. Thank you for tuning in. This is my story. So my father murdered my mother, and so I have this very unique perspective of what this all looks like, in which is a lens that no one ever wants to have to view any of this in to begin with. This is a when you think about, and I've wanted to talk about the Daybell children because or Garth especially, testifying, again against your parent, uh, you know, and the connection that I see with Daybell compared to like the connection with my father is almost identical. I believe they're both psychopaths. So, like, look, I say this all the time on the program. I am not I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not working in law enforcement. I'm just a guy who's been through a lot of shit, as you can see. But one of the things that I think is the most important that we need to consider is, you try to have that connection with the parent, no matter how evil they are, what they've done, and you can't. Like, my father is a psychopath, just like Chad Daybell is a psychopath, and I'm sure that he gaslights his children the same way my father did. I'm sure that he is. It's very difficult, and you want to have that connection. You can't have that connection with them because they're almost like they're not human in a lot of ways. They don't possess the qualities that we think are admirable or relatable, and getting around that in your head is probably the most difficult thing. And moving past all of this too, I spent years, decades trying to, even though I made peace with what happened and made peace with what occurred in my life, I still struggled a lot with why did my father do what he did and how that affected me, and does the apple fall far from the tree or not? That's a real consequence of all of this too that we don't think about. You don't see that when you're not immediately involved in the case in these ways. And I say a lot of times, we as a society, the bad guy goes to jail, the victim is dead, the state gets its restitution, the gavel hits, and we say next. And we don't look at those consequences and the impacts, the broader impacts of how all of this works society-wise, in our society, in our communities, how everyone is affected by the tragic nature of and massive consequences of violence of this nature. The scars and the wounds that it leaves, closure. A lot of people talk about closure, but just because there is a verdict, just because he's going to go to prison or he's going to get the death penalty, potentially, we'll find out later today, that doesn't bring people back. That doesn't make it easier. We're talking about years and years of therapy, and it just lives with you for the rest of your life. And you're known because of it. It's always a stigma that will follow you no matter what. A lot of people, it brings a lot of people down. Sometimes it brings people up. Sometimes it inspires people to do what I do and share the story and talk about it and bring up the consequences of violence, as unpopular as it might be. We like to just watch the gory things, but we don't like to think about the aftermath and the consequences of this. But it's very real. It's very real. It's very true how this follows people. It's even as we see with the Karen Reed case, right? The case itself looks very, very botched. And I like I said, I'm cutting more interviews together, and I've spoke to more people, lawyers, law enforcement, etc. And you see things like that, and even the consequences, the ramifications from something. If somebody is found not guilty, just the stigma that stays with them, the veil of suspicion that they live under, the people who came to their defense or didn't come to their defense, the people who are related to the perpetrators, like myself, but also related to the victims, like myself. These are all people. These are all real human emotions that we need to process, and that are life-changing. As I said yesterday on my live, it's like somebody comes in, you got the 1,000-piece puzzle on the table, you got 2 or 3 puzzle pieces left to put, and somebody just comes in and bam, and the whole thing goes up in the air, and it's all done. Your whole life is turned upside down, and you have to assess what that looks like after the fact. I was 11 when the murder of my mother occurred by my father. It was premeditated. I was 12 when it went to trial, and then I started picking up the pieces after that, and doing so ever since. So it's one of those things, and you got to have a lot of compassion in your heart and a lot of understanding of what these people go through, also witnesses that put themselves out there, and the connection, you know. You will indeed have a unique understanding and from the kids' perspectives, and yes, it would be helpful for Garth to watch this. I'm sure. Yes, I would say that. I would say that. I mean, look, you know, not all religions are nutty. Obviously, there are people who practice this type of stuff, who practice organized religion, that are not crazy, that don't kill people, that don't take people's lives, that don't abuse people. There's just stuff. Sorry, Caroline Ross. I have everybody reaching out to me for jobs, and I have everybody reaching out to me this, and I have friends coming over and people trying to pick up things. So I apologize. I didn't plan on doing this live today, just because I realized, oh, the verdict is happening. I probably should stream that. Thank you, Court McNeil. The fact that I don't live under a bridge with the major addiction issues always amazes me. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Yeah, guys, this is a whole thing. I just want to make sure that I have, so it is Garth Daybell who testified. And sometimes reading these articles is John Pryor. Garth Daybell told jurors that he lived with Chad and Tammy Daybell, and he heard no disturbances the night his mother died. Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure that Garth Daybell was both their sons before I started going down that road. Yeah, so his mother's dead. There, you know, and this is a long time ago. This is, you know, 5 years ago that this happened, and now Garth Daybell is going to have to pick up the pieces from this and move on with his life, and it's very hard. Do I think his children should also be held accountable? No, I don't think his children should also be held accountable unless his children have been charged with covering something up. I don't see how Garth Daybell participated in the murder of his own mother. No, I don't think the children should be charged unless they've committed a crime, which I have a very hard time believing that they did. Nearly a year after the children, September 2019, told juries that his mother's health had been declining in the months before he died, and he was worried because she was getting tired easily. I would sometimes faint. Murray made similar. Chad Daybell's children. Emma Murray, Daybell's daughter, Emma Murray. Okay, I'm trying to find all these names. This is a very wordy article I'm reading. Glad I picked up the most difficult to read article here. Emma Murray is Daybell's other children. So Garth Daybell and Emma Murray told jurors that her father was deeply distraught after her mother died, and that Murray, not Daybell, was the person who objected to an autopsy being performed. That's interesting. Yeah, I'll have to do a video about this. This is, I know that the grief he felt was real. And again, I'm sure, you know, in Chad's very twisted mind, I'm sure that, you know, he wants the eternal kingdom of heaven, and they're zombies and they're not a part of his religious zealotry. So maybe he was sad that they couldn't be a part of that too. My father feigned a lot of grief and sort of disbelief in my mother's disappearance, right? Even though he was responsible for her disappearance. It's all an act. It's unfortunately all an act, because these people just are, they're not well, and it's really hard to understand. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not in law enforcement. I'm just a guy who's been through a lot of shit. But that is, to me, this is the crux of this. And I know that my father's a psychopath, and I see very similar trends, similar trends, tendencies, and a lot of similarities between Chad Daybell and my father. I should cover that in another video for sure, because I get to go on and on about this. Mover Nation, we have a verdict. The Daybell family believe the doomsday teachings, as do many whom follow visions of glory. It's called spiritual warfare, aka the justification of brainwash actions. Thank you so much. Cat loves cat skills. You have a unique perspective that you didn't ask for. Yes, absolutely. I put these unimaginable situations is very helpful to people. Your voice reaches many. Thank you so much. Yeah. R.I.P. Tylee Ryan, J.J. Vallow, Tammy Daybell. It makes no sense. That's the biggest thing. None of this makes any sense. And it's probably a good thing that doesn't make any sense to us, but my heart goes out to the family. It's just, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And justice as we see it has been served, but the families and everyone involved in this debacle has to figure out a way to process this and move on with their lives. And that is probably the most difficult part of all of this. Yeah. It is a great day for justice. Absolutely. And we'll find out if he will get the death penalty or what will occur next. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot. Mover Nation. We get through another one, right? I'm sure there are. Let's see what they're saying here.
When they handed down this verdict less than 20 minutes ago. And now we wait to see what his punishment will be. Will he face the death penalty? Will he face life in prison? Idaho has not sentenced somebody to death since 2017. This would be the first. This would be the first death penalty case in eastern Idaho in I don't know how many years.
Wow.
Several years, possibly over a decade or more. But that jury could very well come back after this penalty phase and say Chad Daybell deserves to die for the crimes he committed against his wife and the children of his new wife. Inside the courtroom, we have Tammy Daybell's father. For the first time, he came to a court hearing. I spoke with him briefly after. It was very emotional. He said, I hugged Larry Woodcock and we cried. Larry Woodcock and Kay Woodcock were in there, tears running down their cheeks. I was sitting on a row in front of several law enforcement officers with their spouses. I could hear sniffles. I could hear, I didn't, not sobbing, but you could tell that people were crying. It was an emotional moment in there. And as we led up to the verdict,
of course it was.
It actually happened so quick. I think we were in there less than 10 minutes. We've been in there 9 weeks. But when it came down to the verdict, the jurors were brought in. The jury, four-person said, we have a verdict. It was given to the judge. The judge opened it. The judge gave it to the clerk. The judge had the clerk.
Anyways, we all watched this. We know what happened. Yeah. All 8 counts. Guilty. And Chad Daybell will now await his fate later on this afternoon, apparently, whether he will face the death penalty. Just my takeaway in this is what a waste. You know, this is the same thing I went through when I was a kid. It's what a waste. Why do this? It's again, there's a lot of psychological factors that normal people thank you so much, Beachcomber, aka Cucumber. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. We love our little super stickers or super chats. Thank you. Yeah. Ironically, if he's so religious, I think the fate he is facing is much worse than a human courtroom. Yeah, absolutely. I think that he, delusionally feels that that he is a part of something greater. It's interesting because if he does spend life in prison, he'll fit right in because he will definitely be able to he will definitely be held accountable in a higher power for sure. But he will also definitely find comfort in all the people in prison who found religion. Anyways, Mover Nation, I'm going to pause this stream, or I'm going to jump out of this stream. I'll see y'all in the next one. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll follow us up with another video. here is the outro. We get through another one, a little impromptu. Chad Daybell, guilty on all 8 counts. I'll see you on the next one. Mover Nation, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much to all my channel members and Patreon supporters. And for more exclusive content, behind the scenes videos, monthly VIP meet and greets, and watch parties, please consider supporting me on Patreon or by becoming a YouTube channel member. If you like this video, check out this one right here or this one right here. And don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps with the algorithm. On that note, I'm Collier Landry. I'll see you on the next one.